was quite a shy, quiet kid. I wasn't very loud. I wasn't center of attention. And in my position on the field, I had to be quite loud and dominant. And that was quite hard for me. It took me a long time to find my voice and feel confident to be able to tell All Blacks what to do or where to go. That for me was so hard. I got named in the All Blacks on the Friday, first time, India tour. And my daughter was born on the Saturday. I flew out the Sunday for 4 or 5 weeks. It was pretty intense. Oh, my heart's with my daughter, my newborn, but then I've got All Black dream. And then I'm like, flip. Like for some people, like Dan Carter, for example, he wanted to become one of the best All Blacks there's ever been. He wanted to leave his legacy behind him, and that was his goal. But I wasn't like that. I wanted to just go and experience new life, new life challenges, new experience, new cultures. And I've got this vehicle, this game, which I'm pretty good at, to be able to let me do that. I was like, no, I'm gonna enjoy that, and I'm gonna make the most of that.
This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. 2, 3, 4. A Beacon of Hope is a weekly podcast that shines a light on the human spirit and explores the power of hope in our lives. Join me, Will Fleming, as I talk to people from all walks of life about where they find hope and how they use it to navigate life's challenges.
Be good, be safe, and be happy.
Traditionally, it was only a select few who could get access to our elite sports stars like Luke McAlister. And even if you had access, I would argue that it wasn't authentic and open access. But that was then, and this is now. And in this podcast, we sit down with Luke McAlister for a truly open and honest conversation about his story, what it took to make it to the pinnacle of rugby, the dedication of Luke's dad in helping drive him there, and the love felt when Luke left New Zealand to play offshore. I asked Luke to share where he finds hope and optimism in life and what his message is for people trying to find hope in their own life. Just a quick mention to my pal Cam Kilgar, who was kind enough to introduce me to Luke, and Justin Feeney, who made this podcast possible.
You said this is your first podcast.
Yeah,
so
first proper podcast. I'm pretty sure it is. I haven't been in a setup like this before.
Dude, I'll try not to ruin your experience, I guess I said to you off record that the tension I feel as a podcaster is podcasting in some ways about having these kind of raw conversations. The challenge I feel like, and you tell me if it's right or not, is like you've had to spend a lot of your life, like 20 years being, is it right, quite careful about how you go about the world because of the brands you're associated with? I mean, that's just my thinking.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people think.
Well, there's definitely that public expectation on how you should behave. Definitely, especially in New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's pretty big. We have an image to uphold, I guess, so you've got to kind of be careful. But at the same time, you don't want to be someone who you're not,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tricky. It's tricky in New Zealand. It's tricky back when I started, obviously there was no social media, so there was none of that sort of pressure. Now, I mean, I feel kind of sorry for the boys, not sorry for them, but it's a different time.
Yeah.
How they live and how, if they want to, I don't know, go out for a beer or celebrate with their mates somehow, they've kind of probably got to do it privately now with all the phones out and, why is he not at home? It's a Wednesday night and he's out having drinks or, you can't really have a normal life like I guess we could do when I was playing here. It was a bit more relaxed-ish.
Yeah.
It wasn't that as much expectation on these guys as there is now, I don't think.
Yeah, it's wild to think about. Even I was saying to you, just as we kicked off, like I don't really research guests because I'm not a researcher, but I did Google your name and I saw this article. It's from, I think you were 23 at the time, and I stopped reading because I thought that's quite young, 23, and you're already expected to be this superhero, in the eyes of New Zealand. And I thought maybe one of the things just to pick your brains about is like, do you ever think about that? Do you ever think about like you had to carry quite a lot at quite a young age?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty lucky. I had pretty good support around me. My circle was pretty close, and I grew up with my dad playing rugby as well. So he kind of showed me the way I guess I had him right next to me the whole way. So I knew I could, if I needed any help, I'd fall back on Dad. And saying that though, it wasn't easy. You know, I had a kid when I was 21, my first child, my daughter. True. She's 18 now.
Wow.
I made the All Blacks when I was 21. I came straight out of school into professional rugby playing with men from, like a school kid.
Yeah.
I was quite a shy, quiet kid. I wasn't very loud. I wasn't center of attention. And in my position on the field, I had to be quite loud and dominant. And that was quite hard for me. It took me a long time to find my voice and feel confident to be able to tell All Blacks what to do or where to go. That for me was so hard. Like I remember, the All Black coaches said, you won't stay in here if you don't dominate these guys and tell them where to go. And I was just like, so I walked out of that meeting going, right, now it's time to sort of, because that's all they want. They want direction. They want to be told, but geez, it's not easy. 19, 20-year-old kid. I'm telling my idols, why the F are you not over here?
Wow.
And you've got to kind of talk to them like that because that's what they want. Yeah, I got there in time. It's good though, the guys, when I was coming through, the senior guys, the older guys in the teams were really supportive to us young boys, and they were pretty straight up. Like they didn't muck around, like they didn't beat around the bush. They would tell it how it is and tell us what they wanted. So that was big in my development. My rugby apprenticeship, like through North Harbour, the Blues was huge for me. But it wasn't easy. There were setbacks, there was injuries, there was, I don't know why I was always in the Sunday papers, like over here. It's like, but I guess there was kind of an image on perception on what I was like back then. There's a lot of people that don't like me. I don't know why, but I don't really care too much about what people think of me. I know my circle and my people, and all I care about is what they think of me. And I won't do anything to please anyone else. I'll do what's sort of best. I've always done what's best for me and my family. I
watched this documentary, Last Dance on Netflix, and then they had a basketballer from Aussie, a guy called Luke, anyone know his name? Luke Longley. And he was talking about Jordan making him be more outgoing. You got to shout at people. And he said he had to learn a long time after basketball how to unlearn that stuff. It so wasn't comfortable for him to be that person. And so when you talked about it, I was like, I wonder if have you felt like that you had to invent that character, the one that was comfortable telling people what to do? Have you had to unlearn that?
Unlearn it? No, I think that's what's kind of shaped me who I am today. I think I'm a completely different person now to what I was when I was 20. And I think that's come through what I've learned through rugby, outside rugby, setbacks like we talked about, media, all that sort of shaped me and grown me to be able to handle that sort of stuff, because it wasn't easy. But I evolved from a young shy kid. My dad was my agent when I was growing up, so he did a lot of the talking for me. I think that's the reason why I was pretty shy and pretty quiet, because he was a pretty dominant person in my life. He was my go-to. He was my safety net. He was everything for me, and I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my dad and my mum, obviously. But yeah, he was my go-to man. So whenever we'd go into, I don't know, I'd be with him, he would always just do the talking. So I would naturally just sit in the pocket and sit back and then just be quite quiet. So that wasn't until I sort of had to come out and be like, right, I need to find my voice. Love you, Dad, but I need to let me do me now. And I got that when I was about 21. I think I was about 21, 22. I can't remember when it was. But Dad was my harshest critic, but he always wanted the best for me. That's why he was so hard on me. And I had quite thick skin from that, because I grew up with Dad as my coach, and he was always extra hard on me. But that kind of prepared me for what I was going to go into. He had the vision. He knew what was happening, what was coming ahead. And he prepared that when I was like 16, 17, 18, and he knew what was coming. The future. So when I would go into teams, for example, and I did something wrong, I would just take it on the chin, and I wouldn't get defensive. I wouldn't fight back. I knew, okay, well, I've kind of grown up with it. Whereas other players who hadn't had that would get quite defensive and like argue back, be like, no, it's not my fault. But I could just take it. I could take all the heat. Yeah. But I've definitely evolved, and I don't want to unlearn those things.
What about you as a dad?
As a dad, I had my first child when I was 21. Aston Holly, she's down in Taranaki now. She's 18.
Awesome.
21, I'll tell you the funny story. So I got named in the All Blacks on the Friday, first time, India tour. And my daughter was born on the Saturday. I flew out the Sunday for 5 weeks. It was pretty intense.
Most people get to hang around.
Yeah.
And you're half out the door.
Well, it was like, my heart's with my daughter, my newborn, but then I've got the All Black dream, and then I'm like, I'm tossed up 21, and obviously my partner at the time, Brooke, she said, no way, there's no way you're missing the tour. You're definitely going. Yeah. We'll still be here in 5 weeks. So. But it wasn't easy. I had my baby the Saturday, I flew out the Sunday. It was tough.
I mean, that's kind of that stuff that I was thinking about before we caught up. Like, you must have had hundreds of moments like that where you've had to, put on that other hat. And I don't know what the right way to call that is. I call it like, you were the Marvel heroes in New Zealand before we had all of those. People look at the All Blacks as something else. And I think that's why also we can talk about people in, that level like they're not real people. And I think that sucks, like.
Oh, we're definitely real people.
Yeah, bro.
We've all got emotions.
Absolutely.
We've got feelings.
But I wonder what the hesitation is to not share that. Maybe it's changing these days, but, the fact that I told a few pals that you're coming on, they're like, oh, cool. Because I think it's not common.
Yeah. When you talk about feelings and emotions and things, I guess with me, I could definitely hold them inside. I wasn't one to talk much. Now I'm different, but back then I definitely kept things inside. I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't want to burden anyone with my problems or my feelings. But now I'm definitely more open to talking. Like, if you'd asked me to come on a podcast like this when I was 20, I probably would have said no way.
Yeah.
But I've definitely changed over time, over my rugby career. I've been pretty lucky to be able to travel the world doing something that I love. I've always been a bit different with my career path, I guess. I left when I was 24. In the prime of my career, left New Zealand for 2 years, signed overseas, and that was unheard of back then. No one did that. And it was big. It was a big scandal. People that didn't know me, he's turned his back on the black jerseys.
That's the article I read,
disrespecting us. He was disrespecting the nation. And I'm like, man, I didn't read too much into it, but I knew that's what was coming. But I asked my dad when I got the opportunity. It was just after the World Cup. We lost quarterfinal, and I'd signed before that though. And Dad, because obviously Dad's my go-to man, and this contract came on the table, and it's where I used to play, where I grew up, where I went back to, so Sale in England. And I was like, I don't know how many games I played, maybe 20 or 22 games for the All Blacks at the time, and I was just like, I'm in the prime of my career. I don't want to be one of those All Blacks that would leave when I'm 35 and stay in New Zealand for 15 years or 10 years or whatever it is, and then go. I'd rather go to a club where I'm at my best. I can give my best. I can go to a new culture, new experience. Money's awesome as well. I'm not going to lie. The money was a huge factor in me leaving, but it wasn't the sole factor. I wanted to get out, wanted to go. There was some stuff happening. I broke up with my partner in 2007. So it was Aston's mum. So I was kind of like, I just want to go. I want to get away. And that was pretty hard. I had to leave, obviously, my daughter and her here. And it wasn't a great breakup at the time. We obviously we're good now, but back then it was a few teething issues and that. So being away from her was hard, but I wouldn't change anything for what I did. I loved my time in Sale. I had made good friends there, new friends. I got to experience a new competition while I was still, playing pretty well.
Were they kinder to you than like media and stuff here?
I went to Manchester, so rugby was a tiny.
Yeah, so you could go out and have a coffee.
Yeah, no one knew us there. No one knew who I was. Only the hard out rugby fans, but there wasn't as many as there was. Well, when I went to Toulouse, for example, it was a bit different. I went to France for a while, but kind of unknown there. And I got there and I was like, oh, this is so nice. Walk down the street and not be bothered.
Yeah.
Not that it was bad here. I grew up with it here, but it was nice to go somewhere where I wasn't noticed. Not that I was really noticed all the time here, but it was just nice to be completely anonymous in a city and do things that normal people could do, I guess, without being
continue bothered. Growing up, eh?
Yeah.
that's like...
I went there by myself. I was 23, 24. I was like, nah, I'm out. I want to go travel. I want to be able to... I had Europe on my doorstep. I wanted to go experience those things. And now everyone's leaving. well, not everyone, but a lot of players are leaving from at a young age. Lester Whainuku, he's just signed, I think, to go to Montpellier or somewhere over in France. He's another one. He's in the prime of his career. He just made the All Blacks yesterday. And I'm kind of doing what I did 55 years ago, a long time ago. So, yeah.
What kind of things would you do with that autonomy? Would you go like sightseeing or like,
it was just nice to go out. It was more like, for me in New Zealand, it was when we'd go out, and you get guys that would be drunk, and those are the ones that were a bit annoying. Everything else was pretty positive. You get guys, and a couple of times, be out with your family having dinner, and you get someone come over and it's like, and they say, "Oh, can you sign my kid's over here? It's his birthday. Can you sign his thing for me?" And I'm like, "Oh, mate, do you mind? I'm eating my dinner. Can I come after I finish?" And most people would be good, but you'd get the odd person that'd be like, "Well, fuck you. What an asshole you are." Yeah. It's like, come on, man. And then you get the drunk guys who are out, and then they're like, "Oh, you were shit last night," or "You were shit yesterday," or you're a dickhead, and they you get those. But I never had any like big problems, but you get a couple of heroes out and about.
But dude, that's still like more than most people ever have to deal with, I mean, there's a bit more of that stuff online these days. Yeah. But the fact that they'll come to you and not see you as a person, you represent something.
Well, they don't know us. They see what they see on TV, and they make a judgment on what you would be like. And I don't know what it is, but I think they have the right to be able to do that. And I never had a problem with that. I never got into any fights or never, retaliated in any anger. I just sort of like laughed it off and would never engage in anything. A couple of times I'd be like, "Oh, come on, man." And my mates would be like, "Right, come on, bro, let's go." I had, like I said, my circle's pretty tight and look after each other and not really get myself into too much trouble. But yeah, I came back after sales. So 2007, 2009, I came back to NZ, signed back. And then and that pressure was quite big coming back to NZ from after leaving at the prime of my career, kind of. But everyone was like, "Oh, he's coming back to get back in the All Blacks," so the public and the media. But I wasn't coming back to get back in the All Blacks. That was obviously a goal that I'd had, but it wasn't my be-all and end-all for coming home. I wanted to come home because my father had just got cancer. My daughter, obviously, I'd been away, so I was missing home and I wanted to come back. So I went back into the Blues setup. And then, I got back into the team. Probably they threw me straight back in there without really proving myself that I should be there. So Graham Henry and all that, Wayne Smith put me back in there. And I probably didn't perform as good as what people expected. And that was quite a lot of public pressure on me there. And for the first time in my probably life, I felt it, like, because I hadn't really worried too much about the pressures. I sort of dealt with them, but by my actions and playing well. It was the first time in my actual career I was like, "Whew, it's a lot. This is a lot." 2010, 2011, so going to the World Cup. Yeah, so I was in the Blues. And the Blues that year, we got to the semi-final. I think I played the Reds and we lost to the Reds, but I was playing out of position. So I did like 8 games at fullback, and I'd never played fullback in my career. So that year's going to the World Cup. So picked on form and that you're going to get selected by your form in the Super Rugby. And I was playing out of position. I wasn't playing well. And that was probably the first time in my career I was like, far out, I am shit. Like I literally I remember saying to myself, you are so bad at the moment. And I was just like, you should just retire. And I had all these little things in my head saying, I don't think you're good enough, to myself, obviously. And then I got a contract offer to go to France when I knew I wasn't probably going to make the All Blacks. I was like, do I want to stay in New Zealand, or should I just gap it? The contract offer was huge for the form that I was giving. It did not, the contract, I should not have got offered that contract with the form that I was showing. And I was like, I can't pass it up. I'm going to go. And because Toulouse was, when I signed for sale, Toulouse came in on the table too when I signed for sale in 2007. So they wanted me, but I chose to go to sale over Toulouse. And so I said to Dad, Dad, I'm pretty keen to leave. I'm not going to make the World Cup squad, and that's it. Hey, it's my time to move on. That's fine. I'm happy with that. A great time in the black jersey, but now it's my time to leave NZ, and probably won't come back rugby wise, career wise. I'd made the choice to go, and yeah, so I wasn't named, and I signed, and then mate, I went to France with not that much confidence. I was pretty in myself as a rugby player. I got there and I had this welcoming party by like fans, and like I was put on like not a pedestal, but I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy. There was like, I got picked up by the president of the club at the airport, and I came out the airport, and there were like fans like yelling while I was going to the car, and I was just like, what the heck, where am I? What is going on here? And I remember I played my first game, and I was just like, I didn't understand anything for one. So I literally got there, and then I had a week to prepare from the first game, because it was in August. So I'd done no preseason with them. I turn up, I don't understand anything that they're saying. go to Bayonne. So going to Bayonne is a really tough place to go. Really, they're one of the bottom teams, but playing at home, they're very strong. Yeah. And we go there. I literally had one training with the team, and I'm checked into my first game. And I remember Yannick Josian, who was a guy I played in the quarterfinal against France many a time. He was my 12, and I had a French 9, and I'm at 10. And if you're at 10, you've got to be able to call the moves and that. So I just said to Yannick, and I was like, he could speak a little bit of English, very broken. He just like said, give me the ball. Every time I'd get the ball, give to him. And then a couple of times I'd go, we lost the game. But I was just like, wow. And then the crowd, because they were singing. It was like, 20,000 people in this small stadium, and the atmosphere. And I was just like, holy shit, this is France. I mean, I played against French teams when I was at Sale, but I never like experienced it like that. And then, I just like, I grew into a different person there. I started playing some of the best rugby I've ever played.
Really?
Yeah, it was mental. And I'd gone from this guy who was about to say, just telling myself to retire, to playing the best rugby I've ever played in my career.
What do you put that down to, though?
Mate, I reckon it's just love.
So we're lacking a bit of love here.
I've never felt love like that before from fans. It was crazy, like the passion they have over there. Oh, man, I was blown away by how much they really care about their team. And I've never had that before. Even when I went to England to Sale, they didn't have it. They didn't have that there. It was just, they would wait like hours after trainings for their to get an autograph or a photo. And then after games, they'd all just wait. And after the change room, you'd come out and you go to the aftermatch reception, and it's about probably 800 or 900 meter walk. And it's just like lined, thousands of people just waiting for you. And you go through them all, and it puts things into perspective that they're there to support you no matter what, win, lose or draw. I mean, there were the haters if we did lose a few games, but Toulouse was a pretty big club. We didn't lose that many times, but they would still like love you. And I thought that was amazing. I just never felt that before in my rugby.
Absolutely. I wonder if that's why we've been quite dominant in New Zealand, because it's so cutthroat. Like, we don't love you. We'll like you if you win. Yeah. And maybe that drives, but at what cost? I think maybe there's part of our culture which is trying to work out what that means. You look at mental health too. It's like, why the hell in a beautiful country like this are so many people sad? And I'm not saying this is the case, but it could be that if you have a bit more love and support, you thrive.
100%. I did. I mean, that's from my learnings there. We won that year. We won the championship that year, and I was just like, I was key to the city for a week after we won it. They just won it yesterday, Toulouse. They won again yesterday 22 times. When I was there, it was the 19th time we won. I never won it again, though. That was the only time we won it that year. But,
How long till you came back to New Zealand after that?
So I retired from rugby 2018, finished up there. I did 8 years up there. And then I came home. So I set up shop up there. So I love Toulouse that much. I bought a house. I'd planned to live there forever.
Yeah. Speak French?
Yep.
Cool.
Everything. I was like this close to getting my passport. I did everything to get it, and I just didn't do one thing. But I was like, I'm going to come home for a bit, because I missed obviously my family. The kids were here. The kids were coming back and forth. I had my daughter live with me for 6 months at a time, sometimes too. So it was a lot more. It was a lot better than what it was when I was in Sale. And I had my boy as well. So my boy was born 2010. He's 13 now. So I had him. 2 different mums, so it was quite a dynamic there. But everyone, we all made it work. Yeah. Came home 2018, and I was just coming home for a holiday, and it'd been like 9 years or 8 years since I'd been home properly, and because I'd been away for so long, I was like, kind of forgotten, which was really nice. Because when I was playing here, obviously I'd get bothered, which is all good. But it was just nice to come home and like not be bothered. And I was like, far out, this is actually really nice. Because I did leave kind of for one of those. That was one of the reasons why I was like, I'm out. Like, I'm just done with NZ. Like, I just want to go. I think coming home and having that feeling of just being able to live a normal life here, I was like, oh, you know what? I think I kind of fell back in love with the country, and that's sad, right? It's sad that I'm saying that.
Absolutely,
it's so sad that it comes to that.
It's I think in the position that you were holding, probably not even choosing that. You know, you're thrust into your people's superheroes. That's the problem, eh? You're the movie stars of New Zealand, and it's like, I mean, it's sad that people wouldn't give you that love and support here, that you had to go offshore. I think that's the sad bit.
I'm not saying that there wasn't love and support though, because there definitely was. 100%. There was definitely people that loved and supported us, but there were the others as well. I guess, I don't know. I don't want to get it twisted where it's like, oh, everyone hated me here. It was definitely not like that. But it was just nice to come home and be forgotten, walk down the street and live a normal life. And I was actually like, wow, I could actually move back home. So I kind of changed my whole thought process on my future. And I said, right, I'm going to move back, because I stayed for about 4 months. And then 4 months in, I get a call from a guy over in Japan, who I played at Silverdale with back in the day. He was working at a 3rd division club there, and he said, Luke, we'd love you to come up to Tokyo to check out our club up there. And I was like, oh, mate. Because I'd retired mentally fatigued. Yes, body was okay. I mean, I couldn't probably step like I used to be able to do, but I could still, manage a game and run around. My body wasn't too bad. So I was like, oh, because we'll fly you up, have you stay for a week, we'll put you in a nice hotel. And I was like, it's okay. I'll go up there for a free week. I was like, I'm in. I went up there and I met the coach there, and we sat down over this real nice sushi, and he was like half Japanese, half Canadian. And I said to him, let's get one thing clear. What's the training load like? Because mentally, I don't want to do another season where I'm, smashing my body, blah, 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 blah. And he started laughing. And I'm like, it's a bit weird. Why is he laughing? And he goes, oh, we train Monday, Wednesday night. And I said, what? He goes, we just train Monday, Wednesday night, and you'll play the game Saturday. So your only commitment would be Monday night from 6:30 to 9, Wednesday night 6:30 to 9. The rest of the time is yours. And I was like, wow, I could probably do that. And it was a 2-year contract. And it was a 6-month season, so I could go home for 6 months and then come up for the 3 or 4 months and whatever it is. And home was only 10 hours away, so it's not like France, And I was like, you want to pay me all that money just to do 2 nights a week? I'm like, okay, where do I sign? So I was like, I jumped in there, signed, and took off to Japan.
Wow.
At the end of that year, and we were a 3rd division team, and then COVID kind of hit. So I didn't even play many games in the end because we couldn't play. But it was a pretty good deal in the end. I didn't play. I played maybe like 6 games. I paid a heap of money,
dude. That's awesome.
And the boys will give me shit. They're like, "Oh," because I was like 38, and the boys like, "What? You're robbing a living, mate. How are you got another contract? Get out of here."
That's hilarious. And for context, what type of training load would France have, or ABs?
Oh, mate. Oh, it's so different. Like the season in France is such a long season, and in England, it's a good 11 months. Like it is a grind. And you got to think about those guys that have done that since they were like 19, 18 out of school. Like 8, I don't know, I can't imagine how many games they would have played, especially the older guys now. Whereas over here, we get looked after a little bit more, I think, in terms of games, how many games you play. Obviously, it's pretty intense down here, though, like the context and stuff. The speed of the game down the southern hemisphere is pretty quick. But up there now, they're catching up. They're not there. They're pretty awesome. I remember my last couple of games when I was at Toulouse or in France. I couldn't make any tackles. I was like, I am so happy that I'm done. These people are so explosive now. So they're just athletic, fast, big, strong.
Obviously, that has different impacts too, eh? The stronger, faster everyone is, I guess the more the bodies take, and
yeah.
I
mean, you hear it if you go to a live game, you just hear the contact. I mean, I don't miss, because people ask me like, do you miss it? Do you miss playing? I don't miss playing. I don't miss being sore for 5 days. That's for sure, or 3 days. I don't miss the like big rivalries or winning, but I do miss like just being around the boys. Like last year I went and played for the Classical Blacks, which is a team made up of all the old boys, and we played against Spain. And that's been like a year and a half since I played any, it's been a long time. Japan, I wouldn't class Japan as high level. It was third division team. We won one game in the 2 years I was there, so we weren't that good. So it'd been a minute since I'd been in like a big game. It was 40,000 people at the game. It was like Atletico Madrid's football stadium in Madrid. And that was a real buzz. It was like nice to go back, and it was a tough game. I was sore for a week after that. Jeez, it was tough. But we beat them. We beat the Spanish national team, and we were like a bunch of old boys. But that being back together on the Monday when we met, the camaraderie again, it felt like, I was like, I'm home. Like it was a real nice feeling. And then the captain's run before the game, which is the last training before the game, I went through my old routine, which I used to do, and that brought back like I got quite emotional about it all. It was kind of nice. So I do kind of miss that side of it. I do miss the changing room banter, the jokes, having a good laugh. I do miss that.
Have you been able to find substitutes as you transitioned into, I guess, just life outside of that?
I've got my best friends here, my close circle. It's a bit different. It's so different though now. I still keep in touch with a lot of the boys. Try to. The beautiful thing about what rugby can do for us is that you build these friendships. You go from team to team. You're moving around so much, but the friendships stay strong. I might not see you, for example, if I met you in 2007. Since then, but if I saw you today or tomorrow, it was like we saw each other yesterday. That's how strong the bonds form, and I'm very grateful for that. Like I'm so grateful that I've got to travel and experience different cultures, learn a new language, different ways of life. Very, very grateful for that. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I didn't just stay in New Zealand but that's not what I wanted. Like for some people, like Dan Carter, for example, he wanted to become one of the best All Blacks there's ever been. He wanted to leave his legacy behind him. And that was his goal. But I wasn't like that. Everyone's different, obviously, but I wanted to just go and experience new life, new life challenges, new experience, new cultures. And I've got this vehicle, this game, which I'm pretty good at, to be able to let me do that. I was like, no, I'm gonna enjoy that, and I'm gonna make the most of that. Yeah. I didn't really care too much about what people thought about me when I finished, because I never worried too much about what people thought about me. When I'm retired and old, I don't really care if someone's like, oh, that's that guy that lost us the quarterfinal. And I'm like, I don't really give a shit. I don't care about you. I don't know you. You can have your opinion on me, but I care about setting up my family after rugby, and again keeping my circle nice and tight.
Are there, there's plenty of people out there who maybe, all of us in the room kind of slightly think about this. What it sounds like to me, because this is a podcast about hope and optimism, are you able to kind of whittle down what those principles are in your life that helped you, because it sounds like when you talk, you had your close friends, you had your idea on what you wanted to do, you weren't going to let other people's narratives influence you too much, I guess. But for many, like it's the opposite. For many, our brain won't turn off in terms of the negative talk. We're only listening to people who have the bad stuff. I guess I'm just like, is there anything that you could share that's useful if someone is like...
Balance. It's huge for me. Like that was massive balance. Having a balance in my life was something I had to learn. Like when I was young, all I was focused on was rugby. I trained so hard. I did this, did that. Everything was dedicated to rugby. Everything else just took a back seat. But I learned over time that it doesn't work like that. Life isn't just about that one thing. And I had to balance stuff out in my life. I got a kid when I was 21, so I couldn't put everything here. I had to sort of balance everything out. If I did too much of the rugby and my daughter, then what about my friends? They're missing out on everything. So I learned how to just balance everything. I was hard on myself though when I was playing. So I'd go into my deep thoughts after a game. I remember I couldn't sleep after games because I'd just play the whole game back in my head.
Really?
So I'd go into a bit of a rabbit hole after games, but it was just because I wanted to be better. And then figuring out how to deal with that and handle it, it took me time. It took so many years of working out what works best for me. But there was definitely negative thoughts and things, but working out how to deal with it, finding the balance. And I was good because my dad would pull me up on stuff. He'd say to me like, Luke, you're partying too much, mate. You need to sort your shit out. Right? And then it would be like, oh, okay, pull back there. I didn't like to watch too much rugby. And people, even now, like people are like, oh, did you watch the blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, nah. I did a speaking gig over in Melbourne, Super Round, and I haven't done much of that stuff before. And I get up there and talking about the current rugby or Super Rugby. I'm there for rugby, so obviously, and I didn't know any of the players. And I'm up there on stage and I'm going, oh my God, I don't know any of the players. And I remember saying, Jack Goodhue, and we know him up there. I had a bit of a mind blank, but the Crusaders were playing. And I'm like, right, because I remember going out there, right, Jack's playing. I'm going to talk a bit about Jack. And I had a complete mind blank. I forgot his name. And I'm like, oh, and it was like the centre, the blonde headed guy. And then the crowd were like, Jack Goodhue. And I was like, yeah, that's him. And I'm going, oh my gosh. But yeah, I don't watch too much rugby. I watch the big games and that. So it was always good to get away from rugby for me when I played. It was nice to sort of like take a break from it. But people couldn't understand that. They were like, what? How do you not watch it? And I kind of feel a bit bad, felt guilty. Like, oh no, not really that into it. I love watching league.
Yeah.
But yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you came home because your old man had cancer and stuff. I didn't look through, your story really deeply, but were you happy that you kind of got back here and spent time together? Yeah,
I mean, he's fine now. It was just a mild case, and it was still a bit of a shock. The C word is not something you want to be hearing. So coming back to that was the main reason for coming home. I'm so close to my family. I'm very grateful for them. Mum doesn't probably get enough credit for what she's done for me. My mum was my go back too, because my dad was really hard on me, and she could see how hard he was on me. But I just took it. I took it all. I never, because I'm talking about the plan that I had. We can probably go into that. So Dad was an ex-rugby player. Played for Māori All Blacks. Played rugby league professionally up in England. I grew up in England, so from 4 to 12, I was a little pommy northern kid. Had a northern accent.
Wow. Couldn't
believe it when I'd come home and I'd see kids with bare feet. I was just like, what the heck? Well, Mum, where? I did this real strong northern accent. And then Dad retired and we came home when I was 12. And we moved up to Whangaparoa, which is on the Hibiscus coast. So we got a place up there. Dad got a job. And then I went into Westlake Boys High School. And that's when I started sort of playing rugby. I'd played league and soccer before that. So I never played rugby before. And then, it was all fun, just like most kids at that age. You have a bit of a laugh. And then fourth form year, which I was about 14, I start like standing out a little bit. Yeah. I mean, Dad did say that I always stood out more to him. I don't know, but he said you kind of stood out. And then 14, he was like, far out. I think, he sat me down. He goes, I think you could actually, maybe if you put the work in, sort of set yourself up here and have a good career out of this. I was 14. I was like, well, whatever, Dad. Like, please. I'm just out there to have fun with my mates. And then it was the year after. That's when I made first team when I was fifth form. And not many kids do make it at fifth form, only really the good ones. I played my first actual game in fourth form, but it was just like an in and out. And then I was out. But fifth form, I played 3 years in the first 15. And that's when I was like, far out, I can actually taking this a lot more serious than what I was when I was third and fourth form. And so we sat down and Dad said, right, are you keen to, pursue this All Black dream, because obviously as kids we all watched the All Blacks then, and I was like, oh, Carl Spencer, guys like that, and I just adored the All Blacks, like most kids did. And so I was 15. We sat down and we mapped out together 10 years. I think it was, so I was 25, and obviously being at the end was the All Blacks, and we had like a clear pathway on what teams I needed to make, from school to North Harbour to the New Zealand secondary schools to New Zealand 19s, New Zealand 21s, Māori All Blacks, Junior All Blacks, and All Blacks, and every team in between. We had it all planned. And then Dad was like, well, you're not just going to get there, eh? There's a lot of work that's going to have to go in, a lot of sacrifices to get there. And I'm like, I remember looking at him going, yeah, I'm here for it. Whatever you throw at me, I'll take it and I'll do it. Yeah, and I literally did that. I didn't ever once question him.
Wow.
Ever.
What about schoolwork?
Schoolwork took a back seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you both kind of agreed that...
No, that was clearly me. If I could go back, I probably would have been a lot more present with my school stuff. I never really... Yeah, I was probably a bit complacent in that sense. I was like, I'm going to make it. I was pretty confident that I was going to make it. But my schoolwork definitely... I didn't really take too much care of my schoolwork. I went there to eat my lunch, play rugby, run lunchtime rugby, and train and play rugby on the weekends. So it's different now, I think. Mum and Dad didn't really say too much about my school stuff.
Yeah.
They would, but it was never really like pushed. And I was in and out of school because I was in like New Zealand teams and things, so you're taken out of school for quite a bit.
Yeah. Is it locked in there somewhere, when you first get into the All Blacks? Who are you thinking of first? Are you thinking of your dad?
Oh, because back then they named the team on TV, so I didn't know.
No heads up?
Nah, nothing.
Like truly? No.
No. So I was sitting in my home up in Whangaparaoa in the house, and it was me, Mum, Dad, and my partner, who was like heavily pregnant. And literally on TV, I came out after Richie McCaw. Yeah, and I was just like, wow, because there was a bit of talk about me maybe being a bolter. Yeah, they took me on that tour, so I went on a 5-week European tour for experience. They said to me, I was 21, so they were like, we'll get you up there and you'll probably play the last game, which is against the Barbarians. So I was just, learning. But I did my hamstring that week. I was gutted. I was devastated. Didn't end up playing, and then I made my debut the following year. Yeah.
And when you're named, what are the feelings you're having? Because, it's a very small group of people who get that privilege, and it's interesting, we all imagine.
It was mixed for me.
Yeah.
It was very, obviously I was stoked, but it was more just watching Mum and Dad's reaction.
Yeah, that's cool, eh?
That's pretty cool.
It's beautiful, bro. It means a lot to you.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder, that's that love support thing that I'm not saying New Zealand doesn't give it, but we could spend a bit more time thinking about that stuff. You're
they supported me though. Like Dad, man, he dedicated everything to get me there. I'm pretty lucky to have that. I know there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that support. And if there's one thing I wish kids had, was that having that not father figure, but just having that person or people around you which can help you get to where you want to go.
Someone to believe in you.
Yeah.
He believed in you.
Oh man, he was my number one fan.
He
was hard though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd be that hard on my son. But yeah, he definitely shaped me and got me to where I am. Yeah. And I knew he had my best interests at heart. I knew he had my back no matter what. And he'd always go to bat for me. Yeah. He was pretty ruthless. Awesome. He didn't pull no punches, Dad. If anyone knows him, they know he's pretty bit of a straight shooter. He doesn't beat around the bush. He's tell it how it is.
I wonder what he thought did you ever chat with him, like when there's a bad news article or, people? No,
we didn't really we didn't go into it too much. It was just like I was there, but
stick to the plan.
Yeah. It was always, it didn't really bother me. It didn't shake me. The only time it did kind of shake me was when I came back in 2009. And there was this public expectation on me to perform at a level that they put on me. And I was like, fuck. And I didn't quite deliver. And that was quite hard. It was like, that's when I got into my head a bit about myself and my ability. It just goes to show, though, like I went to France and I was this completely different person. The weight off my shoulders. It was like the public weight, or not public weight, but just everything was just like, whew, you don't understand a word I'm saying here. I don't understand what you're saying. I can just go out there and play and
give me the ball.
Yeah, and just express myself without any stress or any pressure. Because pressure is huge in New Zealand. But I grew up with that, so it's not like it was something new. You know, I knew how to channel the pressure. It's always talked about in the All Blacks and teams I'd come through. That pressure's a privilege, and you know we should never neglect the pressure. Because for me, it was all about preparation, preparing well. Yeah. That was how I could perform at a high level. And if I didn't prepare well, then I wouldn't play well naturally. And I think can you transfer that to kind of in life, with work, with people with normal jobs? You know, if you're not prepared in your job, or if you're not prepared to be a dad, if you don't make the kids lunches in the morning, you're not prepared. They can't get the best out of it, if that makes sense.
Makes total
Preparation
sense.
is huge for me, and I was very dedicated in that sense to making sure I did everything I could do during the week. Small things, it was nutrition, it was like my kicking, making sure my balance was good. If I didn't have my balance, it was off, then I would probably feel off going to a game. My sleep, time with my family, making sure my cup was full. And if I didn't have that, if my cup wasn't full, then I would definitely feel it.
Must be different pressures though, like First Five, for example. What's it like with a stadium full of people watching you? You're like trying to get the kick over, you know, as a conversion. Yeah. I always thought that must be quite out of it. Do you have to like zone out?
It never worried me. I never got
just done enough of them.
Just grew up with it. So it was normal. Yeah,
I guess it'd only be weird if like I found myself, or general
if you were, if you were called into the All Blacks at a World Cup final and you hadn't played.
What the hell? What about the pressure of World Cup? I guess, do you work hard to try and park that, to say it's just business as usual? Or
I only played one of 2007, and that was probably the worst one we've probably done.
Where does it stick in your mind? Is there like trauma?
It's funny. It's trauma, but trauma. I wouldn't call it trauma, because I was 24. I was like, I played so good in that game as well, but I got hammered for it in the media. I was like, oh shit, because I got Simbined. I missed the drop kick and I missed the conversion. I scored a try and I was making breaks all over the place, but we still lost. And when you lose, no one cares about what you've done. It's all about what the end result. But for me, it was more than that. It was more because people, they asked me, what's your favorite game? And obviously my first game. And then that game was one of my favorite games, even though we lost. And people were like, what? How can that be your favorite game? Mate, that was traumatic for all of New Zealand. And probably for people watching this right now, they're probably going, fuck you. But it was because it had everything, that game. It was a World Cup quarterfinal. I never played in a World Cup before. It wasn't so much the result. It was more just everything leading into it. We were like hot favourites to win that game. The game had everything, man. It was, we crumbled though. Like the whole team crumbled. There was like 3 injuries and we were all pushed out of position. The atmosphere was amazing. I remember that, like the feeling on the field, it was a warm, eerie feeling. It was crazy that, oh man, and it went so quick. The game, everything went so fast, but I just remember the atmosphere. And it's very rare that I've been in a game where I felt electric. Like I'd done everything I could going into that game to make myself perform the best I could. And I felt, yeah, it's only happened a couple of times in my career where I've just felt, untouchable. It's probably a little bit extra, but I just felt so strong with the ball. I felt fast. I felt like I was moving real good, and the result was a bit of a shit one. But
it's cool though that you, as someone that was there, can have a different read to people that weren't. Sorry, and I like that. That's cool.
Well, it's real. It's a real feeling. Obviously, I was devastated that we lost. Don't get me wrong. I didn't go into the change room laughing or anything. I was gutted that we had lost the World Cup quarterfinal with so much hopes and dreams on us to go and win that year. Even I was so confident in that game that we were going to win. Like going into it, I said in the media that week that we're the best team in the world, like by far. That's how confident I was. Arrogant, probably a little bit, but I was just like so confident in what we had, the ability we had, the team we had. we were a great team that year going into that World Cup, or in that World Cup. But the French, man, I'll never live it down. When I went to France, I think my first like video session with the team, they put that game up, like the end, just to wind me up. They love rubbing the salt in the wound, the Frenchies. Whenever I do a dinner, they'd always like bring it up. It's like, fuck. they love rubbing it in.
It just probably shows their outlook on life, which is maybe what you were talking about before, which is like rugby's part of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And
I just love beating the All Blacks.
Yeah.
They love getting one up on us. And when we beat them in 2011, they were spewing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were like, the ref, how much did you pay the ref? I said, how much did you pay Wayne Barnes when you beat us in the quarterfinal?
That's awesome.
No, they weren't happy. So,
what's life like now for you? What do you get up to these days?
Life is different now. So I came back from Japan, had about 6 months where I just wanted to spend time with my family, my kids. So take a bit of a break from everything and suss out what I wanted to do. And then I started getting a bit bored. I was like, this is honest story. So it was just when COVID was kind of finishing up here. Well, not finishing up, we had lockdowns and stuff. And I was like, right, I need a job. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I need a job. I'm getting bored. I need to do something. So I was sitting at home. I was Then you get out and do something. So my next door neighbour, she works for the Courier New Zealand Post, and she's got she had lots of courier drivers and stuff. And I was like, I reckon I could be a courier driver, get me out there. And I went down, met with the guys, and took me through the warehouse and stuff. And I was like, right, learned everything. And then literally, I was about to start my first courier run on the Monday, and I went to one of my friends. We had a barbecue. Derek and Julian Emmanuel. They own an F45, which is not far from where I was living. And I go into the barbecue and I'm like talking to them. And I said, bro, I got a job on Monday, courier, going to be a courier driver. And he's like, looks at me, he's like, what? He goes, I said, yeah, no, I'm pretty excited. Met the guys. And he goes, bro, come and work at the gym. And I went, oh. He goes, you know everything about that. That has been your world for 20 years. I mean, I'd love to have you come work at our gym. So I was like, okay. So I rang back the lady from the courier company. I said, not that I've got a better offer, but something else has come up. Don't get me wrong. Thank you so much for the opportunity. But I think I would be probably better suited to working in a gym than driving around Auckland. So yeah, I was there for the last year and a half. And I was a trainer at Te Atatu F45, the Tat tribe. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of big learnings there. Working with people and I just finished up 2 months ago. So I finished up there, and then now I'm doing some kicking coaching out at King's College, a bit of mentoring, working with EAM, Elite Athlete Management, hopefully some future stuff happening there. Very early stages with them at the moment, but very exciting. Looking to give back a bit now. Stayed away from rugby for a good couple of years. I just kind of wanted to get away from it, but now I think it's time. I really enjoy working with the youth and the kids, because like we talked about before about having that support system. For me, I was very grateful to have that around me, and I feel like I can give a lot back to these, and help guide these kids through.
100%. And it's a beautiful narrative, because there's so many lessons built into your 20-year journey that our kids in Aotearoa are screaming for.
Yeah.
And everything you highlighted before about we need a bit more love, we don't take it seriously, but these are the mental health builders, So that's awesome. And, what an exciting next chapter, to really be able to do that.
Yeah. So I've just been working a bit with the King's Kicking boys, It's not much, but I go in and do that. I really enjoyed it. I got my son who's 13, he's into his rugby. So I go and do some training with him, just me and him. Not as hard on him as my dad was.
Yeah,
but
is there tension to say hey man, if you want to make it?
He's 13. He's still a while off.
Yeah,
but I'm definitely trying to help him through some stuff with rugby. But yeah, it's exciting. I'm happy I'm home. I really am. I'm enjoying being back. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man. This is gonna sound cheesy, but most people probably wouldn't have such an optimistic view on our country at the moment.
And I don't know if that's fair or not, but that's the feeling, right? We're down on our luck a little bit at the moment. There's heaps of stuff going on. So, let me, I'll just imagine you're not here, but it's cool to have, if we put you in that superhero category because you were in the All Blacks, then bring that stuff and make positive change. And, for all your pals too, there's that wealth there, there's that mana there, and it can be channeled. And I think, that's what we need. Our young people need people to show them compassion and love. And
I'm probably the most optimistic person you'll probably meet. But recently I've kind of learned that it's okay to not be okay as well. Like it's okay to not be positive. It's okay if that's not so much me, because I don't like being sad or being negative, but it's normal. It's life, right? But there's other people that I've been around, and I try to bring them up, and they're just like, oh, stop with your positivity. Like, it's killing me, and it's okay to have that. So for me, I'm learning, okay, where I put my energy and how I give my energy, and just pull back on that there. And then, learning heaps on that.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, we do a lot of work in suicide prevention through conversations. And one of the big things that does come through is sometimes you just got to show up.
Yeah.
And so you showing up is registered as much as, are you okay?
Yeah.
And I like kind of, it's like you're ready to go when they are. And that's a nice thing. That's going to sound like a slightly morbid thing I'll ask, but it's a bit of a tradition on the podcast where I ask each guest to tell someone out loud, someone in your family or a friend, that you love them. And I asked that because last year I lost my mum, right? And that's kind of why I started this. Oh, thanks, bro. I'm cool. Actually, it's a weird thing in life where I was able to grow up a little bit because of that. And so I don't carry trauma. I miss her, but she gave me some awesome gifts. One of them is optimism. So I'm eternally optimistic as well. Yeah. But I did lots of recordings when she got sick. And one of the things I didn't get her to say is, I love you, even though she said it lots to me in her life. I just thought it'd be cool if it's recorded somewhere, you telling your kids or whoever that you love them, so that it floats on the internet. But one day when we're old and crusty or gone, they can go back and hear their person saying it out loud. Would that be okay?
Yeah. It's my circle. My circle for me, they know who they are. They know the ones that have been with me from when I was young, the ones that have come into my life recently. And those are the people that I love the most. I hold them very close to my heart. Obviously, my kids is obviously another one I love very dearly. And I've done a lot in my life for them and to give them a good future. My circle for me is the ones, they know who they are.
Yeah.
They're the ones I love the most.
That's awesome, bro.
My 2 dogs.
That's awesome. Well, you may hear it a lot, Luke, but I'm very thankful that you said yes to coming on the podcast, that you're willing to entertain us just going on that journey with you, and and also for being really optimistic. I had never thought of you as a really optimistic character. Actually, I had no real opinions. I was one.
Well, you did.
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
No, I was a fan, and I just liked it. Hey, just got on with it. But now that I've met you, I'm like, actually, yeah, that does come through in your body of work, your optimistic character, and you've given us some examples today. And I think that can provide optimism for those who may have lost it. So I want to say thanks, bro. Because
there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You might be sad or you might be down. Jesus, get around the people that will support you and get you to places where you want to go. Okay. One thing in my life is that if I hang around people that aren't good for me, or I can move on pretty quickly from them and be like, I don't need you in my life. I need to go be around the people who are going to take me places. One bit of advice is get around people that are going to get you to places and that are good for you. Yeah.
Boom. Thanks, brother.
Always, bro.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. Campfire Studios is an impact-led organisation amplifying the voices of Māori and Pasifika communities via podcasting and video content. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. 2, 3, 4. Thank you for tuning in to this frequency of hope in our podcast today. If you found value from this episode and want to hear more, I would love it if you could follow, subscribe, and rate our show. By doing so, you will increase the frequency of the beacon of hope. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, please take a moment to hit the follow or subscribe button and leave a rating and review. I truly appreciate your support and feedback, and it helps us make our podcast even better. Thank you.
Be good. Be safe. And be happy. Yeah. Sounds like that song, doesn't it? Be happy.
All right, Mama,
Yeah.
we'll stop there, eh?
Yeah, okay. All right.